Word of the Lord.
Our first reading on this third Sunday of Advent, Gaudete Sunday, is taken from the prophet Isaiah. Gaudete, rejoice. So we want to reflect today on the nature not only of rejoicing, but the cause of Christian rejoicing. You know what? We rejoice because Jesus comes to transform lives. Jesus comes to save us. That is the reason for rejoicing. In the first reading, Isaiah presents to us very clearly the transformation, the salvation that God will give to people. And as in the classic way of Isaiah, we get these beautiful images. He begins with the image of a desert. The desert, a forsaken area. You don't see life. You don't see any activity. It is simply emptiness. But the desert will be transformed. And if the desert could be transformed, then something good is happening. And so there is a cause for rejoicing because this dry area will be filled with life. There will be flowers blooming. There will be water. There will be springs. It will not be a forgotten, forsaken land anymore. A great transformation. Where there used to be death, there will be life, vibrant life. And what is the cause of it? God comes. And when God comes, there will be great transformation. To make it more human or person-oriented, Isaiah tells us of another type of transformation, which we all are longing for. This is part of the Advent longing, the transformation that Jesus will bring. Isaiah already foresaw it. The eyes of the blind will be opened. The ears of the deaf will be cleared. The lame will leap like a stag. The tongue of the dumb will sing. Just like the physical desert that will be bursting with life, we find personal deserts in the suffering of the blind, the deaf, the dumb, and the lame. They will all experience transformation. Through whom? Through the God who comes to save. God who will be our justice and recompense. My dear brothers and sisters, Isaiah is giving Israel, who was living in a desert type of condition, and where you find poverty, different sorts of blindness, of deafness, of being lame and dumb. He tells them, you can rejoice because God is near. God will come with His healing, with His justice, and you will experience life. Transformation which comes from God. This is the cause of joy. My dear brothers and sisters, we all long for change and transformation, but be critical. Sometimes the promises of transformation come not from God, not from the action of God, not from the values and the Spirit of God. And so the joy that those projects give to us usually is short-lived. It does not give us lasting joy. The joy that comes from a transformed heart is a gift of God who comes as our recompense. Let us focus on Him so that we could truly be joyful.
the Lord.
Our second reading for this third Sunday of Advent, Gaudete Sunday, that Sunday of rejoicing, is taken from the letter of the Apostle James. Gaudete, let us rejoice. Rejoice, people. And we have been reflecting on the quality of Christian joy. And in the first reading, we saw that joy comes with God, who approaches His people and will effect salvation and transformation. It is a promise, but it will surely happen because God is the one who will come and effect the transformation Himself. Now, I know that many people long for transformation. They search for transformation in the wrong places. But even those who rely on God's promise, transformation may take a while and may come not according to our mindset, not according to our plans, not according to our ways. That's why some people get impatient. But here is an advice, my dear brothers and sisters, inspired by St. James. First of all, check whether your dreams for transformation are the dreams of God for transformation. Sometimes we get frustrated with the transformation that we are longing for because our dreams and our ways of achieving those dreams are not in harmony with God's dreams and God's ways. Then we get frustrated instead of being joyful. But the second is this: we really need patience. We need patience. In the second reading, St. James gives us the example of farmers. They patiently wait for transformation. They begin with seeds, and they wait for the earth to work quietly in a hidden way. The earth receives winter and spring rains, and the earth patiently receives that. And in a mysterious way, through the action of the heavens, the action of the earth, the farmer witnesses this miraculous change. A seed becomes a sprout, becomes a plant, and then later on yields much fruit. Transformation that cannot be forced. Transformation which is the action of God. And transformation that we should behold without meddling, without forcing it. Imagine if a farmer becomes impatient and tells the seed, "Hey, I planted you yesterday. Change now into a plant," and starts pulling the seed. It will be more destructive. It is not the fruitful transformation that he should be looking forward to. Now, I know this example may not totally fit the Advent spirit of rejoicing, but we know the point of St. James. It is God who will transform. And so those who want to cooperate with God in God's transforming action of the world must have one characteristic: patience. Patience here is the humility to let God do God's work, and we will not interfere. Part of the joy is cooperating with God and marveling at what God has done in spite of our efforts. Many of these transformative events are miracles to behold in patience and even in contemplation. I remember a parent who just brought her only daughter to marriage. And he was, of course, very happy. But he said to me on the wedding day, "I could not imagine how this radiant lady really became what she is right now, without my real efforts. When I look back, said, as a parent, I did only very little. But look at how good she is. I'm proud of her. The patience and the joy of a father, seeing how God worked the transforming love with transforming love on his daughter. That is an Advent rejoicing, trusting in God with patience.
The Gospel of the Lord.
Our Gospel for this third Sunday of Advent, Gaudete Sunday, comes from St. Matthew. We have been reflecting on the quality of Christian rejoicing. In the first reading from Isaiah, we have images of transformation, of physical deserts, and even the deserts that define the conditions of life of the poor and the needy. There is a promise of transformation. They can now rejoice. Why? Because God will come. God, who comes as justice and recompense, will effect the transformation that they have been longing for. So, joy is directed at God, who will effect transformation in life. In the second reading from the letter of St. James, we see how transformation as God's gift, as God's action, demands of us not only cooperation but also patience. Sometimes we cannot rejoice with God and God's action because we insist on our own plans, we insist on our timetable, and in our impatience we get angry. We even meddle with God's transforming action, and it ends in disaster. And that leads again to frustration, and not with joy or ending in joy. So part of Christian joy, Christian trust is let God accomplish His transforming and saving action. We are there to cooperate. We are there to discern. We are there to contemplate and to worship God in awe and wonder. Patience as a joyful trait. In the Gospel, the figure of John the Baptist is presented to us again. Now, John the Baptist is in prison. He is in his own desert. A desert that was already depicted by Isaiah in the first reading. Will John the Baptist lose joy in the desert of the prison cell? Apparently not totally, for he kept his hope that the Messiah whose coming he had announced has probably come already. So his trust and hope kept his joy alive. But it seemed that John also entertained a bit of doubt. So he sent some messengers to Jesus with the question, "Are you the one who is to come? Are you the Messiah promised from of old? Are you the one whose coming I had labored for? Are you the one who is ultimately the cause of my being here in prison? Tell me." Of course, this is not anymore in the gospel, but I can imagine John the Baptist telling Jesus, "Please, make my joy complete. Tell me, are you the one?" Some of us may probably say, "John, what made you doubt? Or at least, what made you question Jesus as the fulfillment of Isaiah? Are you falling into the impatience that James already warned his readers about?" We cannot blame John the Baptist. Remember last week, John the Baptist talked to people about a Messiah who will come as judge, who will restore justice, who will instill fear among sinners. Yet, the reports about Jesus were quite different. He was not a harsh judge. He was a compassionate companion. He ate with sinners instead of lashing out at them. He ate with tax collectors rather than condemn them. He called even tax collectors and sinners among his disciples instead of kicking them away. Are you the one, really? Are you the one? And Jesus sent a response to John. And he used the first reading. Tell John what you have seen. The blind recover their sight. Cripples walk. Lepers are cured. The deaf hear. Dead men are raised to life. And he adds beautifully, the poor have the good news preached to them. The message that the messengers of John the Baptist received from Jesus was this: tell John what you have seen. The transformation, the change promised by Isaiah when the messenger of God comes, this transformation has begun. It is here, and you have seen it in my ministry. So, be assured, John, I am the one, for the prophecy of Isaiah has come to pass. Transformation, change is here. My dear brothers and sisters, this is a beautiful promise already fulfilled. But once in a while, just like the letter of James, the addressees, we also feel impatient. How can we rejoice when we see all around us the status quo? How can we rejoice when promises don't seem to be fulfilled? How can we rejoice when we see our brothers and sisters still living in desert conditions? How can we rejoice when the sick, the blind, the deaf, the lame do not get the help that they deserve? How can we rejoice? No, my dear brothers and sisters, we should open our eyes. Aside from trusting in the promise, we should open our eyes and see the transformation that is already happening. Like St. John, we are entitled to ask Jesus, are you the one, really, who was promised? Have you come already? Are you already effecting the change, the transformation that is supposed to give us joy? Let us be patient, but not only patient. Let us open our eyes. Maybe we are using not the eyes of faith in order to measure the action of Jesus. With the eyes of faith and with a clear commitment to the kingdom of Jesus, then I am sure we will see signs of the transformation that only God in Jesus could bring about. No politician, no human project could effect those changes, but they usually come in quiet, hidden ways. After all, my dear brothers and sisters, the kingdom of God is like a leaven, hidden. It is like a mustard seed, a small seed. You need to open your eyes of faith, to see its presence, and patiently you will discover and you will rejoice. You will rejoice. A few days ago, I had the honor, I call it an honor, to be able to visit the Blessed Teresa of Calcutta Center of the Tulay ng Kabataan in Smoky Mountain, Sitio Vitas. It doesn't sound good, but it is a scavenger's community. People living on garbage, people living in the midst of trash and garbage. And from there, I also went to the Center for Street Children who are being cared for as a family in another center of the Charles de Foucault Center of the Tulay ng Kabataan. I spent a whole morning with them. And I was like John the Baptist asking, have you really come? But then you see, in the midst of this poverty, of this darkness, you see the sincere and trusting love of innocent children. They smile, they welcome you, they hug you. And one of them even innocently said, while looking at me in a perplexed manner, she said, "You look like the one on the picture in the chapel. You look like that person whose picture is hanging on the chapel. Are you the one?" And I joked with the girl. I said, "Oh no, that's not me." And she said, "But who is that person? He looks like you." You could see the joy of these little ones finding joy in the midst of trash and garbage. And you see their mothers not anymore wallowing in poverty. They're still materially poor, but they have become catechists. They have become trainers of other mothers. They have become agents of love and transformation. And in the shelter for street children, I saw 2 graduates of the shelter. They had finished their schooling and they fell in love with each other. And they have their first child. And according to the facilitator of that center, this couple told her on the day of the wedding, "We will take care of our children. We will not let them experience the horror that we had experienced as street children." Transformation has come. That's Advent joy, hidden but real. The desert is full of life. The blind can see what we do not see. The word has been exposed. Let us now fulfill it.